My other concern is a forced melding of the CDC's terminology and the state's legal definition of sex. And so I ask either that, I mean, really, that's just supposed to be a reference for people, that it go into the resource section at the back of the guide, and either you have this, that you just have the CDC language, so it's not confusing to anybody about where that language came from, or a different section if you're going to start using state terminology that's clear to everyone that that's what the state defines it as.
Okay.
But
I think you've heard the testimony and the input from some of our constituents, including Dr. Kozlow. And, you know, we've gotten a little off track from the beginning back in 2015 when this guide was created. What I would like to suggest to our board and superintendent is that rather than mixing in a law in what's really more of a glossary of terms that are just sort of used in this community, that we move it, we take out the reference to state law, because state law is state law and we all have to go by state law, and we just reference it in the back, probably page 13, under resources. And it could be the link to the CDC guide that just has this glossary, or you could have the glossary, the CDC glossary. But I think the terms are helpful to some people who don't know what they mean or have never heard of the word cisgender. So to have them in the back as a resource, I think would make sense.
I would a little disagree. I would prefer to keep it only because we know that our state and federal don't always, there's some contradictory there back and forth. And I think as a school district, we're doing our best to try to find a middle ground and tell people, hey, we're trying to follow federal, we're trying to follow state. So we want to cite both of those within our references.
So I just think we just put it at the end of the guide, either as a link, to CDC for people who want more information. I'm fine with that, or but I'm not fine with keeping the state definition in this context. I don't think it makes sense, and frankly, I think it's offensive to some of our LGBTQ community. In fact, I know it is.
Will Jones.
Madam Chair, Ms. Wood, I need you to help me to get to where you are, because you're saying that you won't vote for it, and I need you to help me to understand what in this offends you.
We have gotten feedback in writing from some of our constituents, I think all of you have gotten it, that this, the way this is written.
Are you talking about sex?
Yes.
In red?
This was a made-up definition. It's not a medical definition. It was made up in the legislature, which they're entitled to do. It's fine. In terms of the guide for people trying to figure out terminology that maybe they're not familiar with, I think we stick with the CDC all the way through.
But I'm missing, Ms. Wood, where the conflict comes in, compared to the CDC, compared to the
It's
state
not
law.
much different, I see, but
I mean, I'm trying to.
But I'm telling you, there is consternation about this definition in the very community we're trying to serve. So it does, I think it should be, if this is a resource guide, it should go back in the resource section with the terminology as it was. If our district somehow feels they need to somehow reference this in state law, it shouldn't go with this list. It should just go as a separate underneath mention of the statute.
Let me get some superintendent.